subject matter is dealing with infrastructure, economic development, roads, gas, electric, water, sewer, broadband, all ingredients for successful economic development. We have presenters today is John Reisenweber, Executive Director for Jefferson County Development Authority, Western Economic Development Council. We have panelist Steve Christian, which is Executive Director, Berkeley County Development Authority, and Bill Clark, Executive Director, Region 9 Planning and Development Council. Gentlemen, come on up. You got 15 minutes.
The agenda says I have 30. You got 15. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Reisenweber. I'm well aware that I'm standing between you all and the bar facility over there to the right. So I get that. We will try to be brief. I do want to mention Bill Clark could not make it today. A couple of things I want to mention. Jim Rulin, thanks for all your hard work with the Business Association. Chris and your crew with the Business and Industry Council, we appreciate you. I'm not sure where Chris is. I saw him earlier, but thank you for bringing this up to the Eastern Panhandle. This is a good opportunity for us to talk to folks from other parts of the state who have come to hear about what's going on in the Eastern Panhandle. And we're pleased to have that opportunity to articulate our concerns and needs to you all. So thank you for making the trip. It's a long trip and we're well aware of it. I want to mention my colleague here, good friend, Steve Christian. To my left, he's going to talk a little bit when I'm done, then we'll take a few questions. And as I mentioned, Bill couldn't make it. I also want to point out two of my biggest supporters here in Jefferson County as it relates to economic development. They're sitting, well, there's a couple of them now. The crew is growing over there. I have 3 board members sitting back here at the table. I have one over here from Harpers Ferry. And the county commissioner. I want to mention Commissioner Pellish, who has been a strong advocate for improving the business climate here in the county at the county level. Commissioner Patsy Nolan has been right there with him all the way through it. So I want to thank you both for your leadership on the commission, the good work you've done as public servants here in Jefferson County. Thank you. It's recognized and it's making a difference. Also want to thank Annette for all her good work on tourism. I'm on her board, and tourism is a critical component not only the economy here in Jefferson County, but West Virginia as a whole. I also want to thank Al Britton. Where's Al? Over here, John. Al, thank you for the hospitality here. Al Britton from Hollywood Casino here. They always do a great job. Help promote a lot of events throughout the county here that they often don't get recognized or get credit for, and they're doing a lot of good things. Thank you, Al, for all the economy that you create right here at the casino, so thank you. We're here to talk a little bit about infrastructure and its impact on economic development. As I mentioned before with my comment about right to work, infrastructure is critically important. And I appreciate Mr. Cole's comments earlier about, we hear your growth pains and we're here to help. You made a comment, alluded to that earlier, and I appreciate that you brought that up because we do hear from other parts of the state that they would like to have our problems as it's associated with growth because they don't have the growth rates we have. And I think it's important for folks to understand that in order to keep that engine going, we've got to continually invest in infrastructure. Whether it's water, sewer, roads, broadband is a big one here. It's a big one all across the state. Our school system, Manny Arvon knows all about growth here in the school system. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate it because my kids are in your school system, and they're doing well, and it's directly attributable to good work that you all do there, so thank you. But growth is straining everything here in the Eastern Panhandle. We've had a little breather with the recession, a little bit of time to catch up. But it hasn't been, we don't want that kind of situation to be the reason why we're catching up. We need to catch up because we're continually investing in our community and in our infrastructure so that we can move forward. I want to point out a couple things, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he's going to talk about the impact of the Procter & Gamble project that he was instrumental in making happen and that we're very excited about. We know that sewer infrastructure particularly is problematic here in the Eastern Panhandle, and a lot of that gets back to some of the things that Mr. Morrissey's been talking about in the overreach of the administration. They have erroneously looked at the end of a sewer pipe as a reason to solve eutrophication in the Chesapeake Bay. I used to write water quality regs for the federal government. I consulted to EPA and the United States Navy on Clean Water Act provisions. I do know a little bit about this. And they have looked at the end of sewer pipes to the exclusion of non-point runoff, particularly in the eastern shore of Maryland with all of the agricultural activity. That is very difficult to control. So they figured out, well, we'll control it out the end of a pipe. Well, we're in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and our sewer rates and sewer costs are going through the roof. To give you an idea, and I want to thank all the legislators in the room that supported the Senate bill that leveraged some of the gambling money so that we could bond out the $100 million to address sewer infrastructure in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. The lion's share of that money has come up here to the Eastern Panhandle because we're one of the few parts of the state that is not, or that is located in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. To put it in perspective, the gentleman's not here, but I do want to give a shout out to Senator Snyder, who helped lead the way on that, and I give credit where credit's due. And I want to thank some of our local legislators who supported that as well. We got about $100 million in that bond fund. $66 million it costs just to upgrade the 4 treatment plants in Berkeley County. $66 million. The new plant in Martinsburg was close to $50 million. We just authorized another $7 million for a collection system in Jefferson County. And I'm not even talking about the $25 million that Hardy wants or the $30 million that we're sending over to Mineral and Kaiser. The money's getting eaten up as quickly as we get it. And we've got to be looking long term. And those of us locally here in Jefferson County know that we've got some work to do here locally as well. But it's important that our legislators know, and I want all of y'all to listen to this comment, that we need to continue to fund infrastructure. The Infrastructure Council has been cut $30 million over the last 2 cycles. $30 million. It's hard to keep up with growth when we're getting cut to that extent. The checklist for economic development used to be roads, water, and sewer. Well, now it's roads, it's water, it's sewer, it's workforce, it's broadband, and it's natural gas or energy, depending on how you check the box for energy. Nowadays, in certain industries, you got to be able to check the box on energy a couple of different ways. And Sammy Gray talked a little bit about that earlier. So we know that, and Corky, I appreciate your comments about natural gas capacity here in the Eastern Panhandle. Charlie, you know we don't have any over in Morgan County. U.S. Silicon needs it. We had a meeting over there last week about that. Steve and I have been leading the charge on expanding natural gas infrastructure here in the Eastern Panhandle. We have natural gas at one facility here in Jefferson County, and that's the old Kodak facility, which, by the way, has an environmental plume underneath the property. It's made it a little bit difficult to actually get it redeveloped, let alone even though it is the only site we have that has natural gas. The natural gas system in Martinsburg is basically tapped out, and Procter & Gamble is going to eat up the rest of the capacity in that system. So we basically have no more natural gas. And there's a proposal to build a pipeline through the Eastern Panhandle, a little south of here, down to the ports in the Carolinas to run it overseas. Now, we did that with timber, we did it with coal, and I do not want to see it done again for natural gas, whereby the beneficiaries of our rich natural resources are people other than West Virginians. The corporate profits have been taken out, and we need to do a better job. Manny, I mentioned my 3 kids, straight A students, 12, 10, and 8. My 8-year-old, by the way, will pay me back for all my shenanigans. Those of you that have met him, you know that. I want them to be able to work here. I want them to be able to live in West Virginia and work here. And they're the best and the brightest, if I may say so myself. We need to keep those kids here so the next generation can move this state forward. We're not going to be able to do that if we don't provide them jobs. We're not going to be able to do that if we don't keep up with our infrastructure. So I'll get off my soapbox a little bit. I think it's important for you all to hear from Steve about Procter & Gamble, the impact, the incredibly positive impact it's going to make, but also the impact it's going to have on our infrastructure and the need to continue to fund infrastructure improvements here in Eastern Panhandle. Thank you all, and we appreciate you all.
Thank you, John, for that very, very passionate, very accurate comments about infrastructure's relationship to economic development. I have a very positive message for everybody in the room and everybody in West Virginia. And the message is, we can do it. I will put one asterisk on that. We can do it if. And what I mean by that is, in order to win a big project like Procter & Gamble, you need to have some baseline items in place before they even look. In Procter & Gamble's case, they needed a minimum of 350 acres to start out with. They ended up wanting 450 acres. They ended up buying 458 acres. Not just in a farm, not just a green field, but a site that had highway access, that had major infrastructure with power, water, sewer, natural gas, and fiber optics, and rail. Although the rail didn't come into play until halfway through the negotiations, when we highlighted the fact that they could bring in raw materials on rail and save lots of money. And then we moved up in the checklist. Now, there's a lot of factors that went into winning the Procter & Gamble project. But fundamentally, what was required was a site that was big enough and had been teed up by both the public and private sector, ready to go. Big enough and equipped with the infrastructure necessary to support their needs. We can compete. We can win. West Virginia doesn't have to play second fiddle to anyone. We beat Pennsylvania. We beat Maryland. We beat Virginia. We even beat a site in Ohio, where Procter & Gamble's corporate headquarters is located. And there wasn't a bigger smile on my face than when I touched down in Cincinnati, Ohio, to go to Procter & Gamble's corporate headquarters and sign the paperwork to have them purchase the Tabler Station Business Industrial Park. And God bless the Berkeley County Development Authority Board of Directors for supporting this crazy idea that we had to borrow more money, leverage more debt to acquire enough land to create a mega site to win a mega project. Because we believed that we could do it. We knew if we had what we needed for the companies, that we could win one of these projects. Now, John's exactly right. There are some deficiencies that we are facing moving forward. From a manufacturing standpoint, we must have more natural gas. We came up with a very creative solution with the cooperation of Mountaineer Gas to help augment the gas that was in the pipelines that serve the Tabler Station Industrial Park. We don't have the energy that we need from a natural gas standpoint to win any more major manufacturing projects in the Eastern Panhandle. We may be able to have enough here and there in some spot locations for some small manufacturing, perhaps some food processing companies. We certainly have enough to keep ambient heat in a big box filled with smaller boxes like Macy's. But we cannot build on our manufacturing base in the absence of a new natural gas pipeline. And estimations are anywhere from $75 million to $125 million to get the appropriate amount of natural gas fed to the Eastern Panhandle. But we will not grow in our manufacturing sector without it. And John is exactly right about water and sewer. The Chesapeake Bay, the costs associated with it, the capacity issues associated with it. We can win. We can compete with anybody on any given day if we have these things in place. Procter & Gamble is living testimony that the best companies in the world will choose West Virginia if we're teed up and ready to go. And that goes for the entire state. Maybe the rest of the state has some topographical challenges that create a difficult circumstance to have a 300-acre flat spot next to a freeway with all of the appropriate infrastructure. But you don't have to have a 300-acre flat spot in the middle of West Virginia to have it grow. You could have a 20-acre spot. John and I are going to give a speech to the West Virginia Economic Development Conference later on this fall. And the primary message is, tee up some sites whether they're 20 acres or they're 200 acres, focus all your attention on available industrial sites that are ready to go. Because we can compete if we have these things. And I'll yield the rest of my time to questions and answers.